do you want to talk about today?
There's so much in the land. We're definitely going to continue on our relay around the track on gentrification and race conversation. I will say this, just because you take ownership does not mean you are the owner. That's wicked down like that. All right, ready? 3, 2, 1. Greetings, family. This is your boy, Antoni Bo. Thank you for tapping into the Antoni the Bo Show. We implore you, as always, to like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment. Seeing us here on YouTube. Also, check us out on all podcast platforms. You don't got to just look at my mug, but you can also put your little head bobs or earphones in your ear and turn on the podcast. And while you're working out, jogging, or whatever else you're doing, playing your little video games, whatever y'all doing, you can listen to us, hopefully feed your ear with some delicious food in the ways of life. We're thankful to be here once again here at the Granger Estates. We want to shout out the Grangers. I want to dedicate this to where I'm from in my neighborhood. I want to dedicate it to all my peer groupings. Thankful for Tyrone. This is for Tyrone. For Roy Boy. Y'all might know him as Antonio. I'm thankful for BJ. You know, there's one fella that knows me naturally more than anybody in the earth out of the peers of my age. I want to say what's up to Money. Money knows all my ins and outs, man. We want to say what's up to William Frosty Freeze. We want to say what's up to Lord LB. That's Lord. We want to say what's up to Aunt D. And in that, we want to say what's up to my day one from preschool. Thought he was going to be 7 foot tall. I want to say what's up to Trail. Trail is part of that peer group that have been with me since 4 years old at the elementary school. And to all the rest of my family, Day Day and Cubone and all my different cousins, and, you know, all y'all that help. I got a piece of you in me, and all that molding and us hanging out and building fellowship one with another. We want to dive in tonight and continue on going around the track with gentrification of the race conversation. We're coming off of Skin Deep, and so we want to dive a little deeper into what that would mean. And so we're going to talk about it from this perspective. Again, I've said it before, but we'll say it again. Buy low, sell high. You know, we're running into a problem. It's a very deep problem, and I've been speaking it for years with few willing to listen, especially in the education, departments that I would deal with. I remember just going off the Skin Deep piece and why we just got to do so much better. I was dealing with one place where I was attempting to get a position and they didn't allow me to get the position because I did not have the right degrees, I guess. I didn't have my degrees correct, right? But then I turned, I turned right back around and was contracted with those same folks in doing what I do now, in helping develop all of their staffs and, teachers, certified and classified workers. So it just strikes me when I talk about these subjects, because not only do I talk about them, I have lived these. It's just ironic that, I wasn't qualified over here, but then it must have been a clerical error because I was able to turn right back around and get and develop, professionally develop, all these different staffs within that same district. This is what I mean. We just got to do better. And we have to know how to measure where we're at and who we're dealing with in the spirit. And then when I say who we're dealing with, not that we esteem ourselves as anything great, but I will say that we hold a certain amount of guidance and ability to speak on these subjects, especially when we get from in front of the camera and I just get with you behind the scenes. It just flows, and I'm thankful for it. But we have to learn how to measure. Do you know how to measure when you're hearing something that's profound, that's relevant, that's for that moment? I always say it like this to everybody I come across. History is lived. History is not a thing where you got to wait for them to come on out with the black and white, the roll, the reel being, and it's black and white, and it sound like a squeaky voice man talking behind it, and we don't have to wait for 20 or 30 or 40 years for it to pass, and then that's history. History is right now. It's in the moment. And it's that much more important that we have to be able to discern what time it is or what's going on within history. So I always say to the people, history is lived. And can you discern that spirit of life and the climate of the spirit of life within that moment? And I'm very disappointed because I feel like a lot of folks is missing the mark when we're talking about the race and culture conversation. A lot is missing the mark. It's a cultural war that's going on right now. I was telling my guys, before we came on, me growing up in a black community, and, we call it the hood or whatever you call it. But what I learned? Number one, I learned I'm going to just be me. And number two, I learned really the prize, or let's call it the gold, is the neighborhood. It was so much prevalent teaching through words and experience within the neighborhood. And though it might not have been, hailed and lauded and, put up on a pedestal then, I'm coming to learn, man, that, a lot of foundational things that I learned that would be medicine or nourishment for everybody comes out of that neighborhood. But here's the problem. We live in America, and it's a capitalistic society. And so with that, it's twofold. We have a desire to capitalize. I see it, I want it. And then I got to turn around and I got to count up the cost and see what capital do I have to bring to it to purchase it. So let's start on the first half. Buy low, the race conversation. And remember, it's gold in this neighborhood. Hey, did you see over there? If you go over there in that neighborhood, if we just take and and take up the dirt and, get the shovels and mine the land, it's gold over there. I think we should buy. It would be a great investment. But we got a problem. Those people run into a problem, right? What's the problem? You done got folks who understand, who did not let someone else have the power to define over them, and that grew up there and came up there, and they know just how valuable that land where they stay at, they know how valuable it is. So with that being the case, when you come in and you want to benefit off of the capital in that land, every time I've looked in, in the neighborhood, it always seemed like, the people are willing to embrace people. But remember what I said. You can take ownership, but you just are not the owner. I'll repeat. You can take ownership, but you're just not the owner. Well, hold it, buddy. Now we got an issue because we got this thing called integration. And when you integrate a thing, number one thing you should think about is integrating cultures. And you have a culture that's ready to share, but then know its worth. And then you have a culture that has been developed that, all right, capital on this side is I see it, I desire it, right? But don't have a lot of coins in the pocket to come purchase. So what would you do in that situation? We got two crash courses. I know what we'll do. We'll gentrify it. We'll gentrify the race conversation. Because in gentrification, what you do, you buy low. You buy low. So now I buy low, but then check it out. What motivates your buying is the question. What's motivating your investment? I'll tell you what's motivating the investment. You see the potential in the land. And you plan within yourself, you strategize within yourself, and you see, hey, if I got a hold of this, I can do this to it. We can flip it like this. We can put some wood paneling on here, some stucco on here. We can make a retainer wall here. We can plant some flowers here. Have you ever noticed when they flipping in houses and they doing all that stuff? Do you ever notice that the investor does not go broke? They'll put a little cosmetic aesthetic on the outside, paint it, plant some flowers, do all that, and then say, all right, here it is. We got it low. Now we're going to, hey, we got it for 10,000. Hey, now we're going to sell it to you for 400,000. So then you might say, man, how did they do that? I'll tell you how they did that. Because they wasn't the only one that did it. It's others who joined them with the same ideal and start doing the same thing with other houses. They had an ideal in how to move in. They're going to move in, and what's there, they're going to move out. Because remember, we use the word polite, renew. So the neighborhood has to become more polite. It has to be renewed. But remember, it's being polited and it's being renewed off of aesthetical things or cosmetics that's really not at the root of what makes a house a house. It just looks good to the eye, but really no substance. You ever get into one of your old houses and you're like, oh man, that house so tight, man. And the next thing you know, you cut the little, what's it called? I don't know, not vinyl, what's it called? the little tile thing. But it's like really a little overlay thing, and you cut it, and you look up under there, a little dirty floor up under there, because they laid down the little tile thing. You ain't got tricked. Look, that house wasn't really broken down to the studs and rebuilt with quality. It was giving outward aesthetic that was very cosmetic. Just enough overlay over the house to please those who culturally will walk into this neighborhood and would just be pleased enough just to look good. No investment in really how the house is built. No investment if the foundation is weary. They just know it looks good. And if we get enough people that want to come in and look good, we can take over the whole neighborhood and then raise the price in the neighborhood. Why? Because now we own it. Buy low, sell high. Here's the problem with that. Sounds good, huh? Y'all like, man, Antoni Bo, man, he trying to hit me in my pocket. What is he talking about? Now I ain't gonna even be able to flip my houses no more. I ain't gonna be able to flip it like the man. Don't be telling all the secrets, man. How we flip the house, hey, just real. Now let's flip it to the race conversation. You can buy in, but you ain't gonna be buying low. This thing costs. Matter of fact, it costs so much, you got to be ready to lay down yourself to do right by it. Because that's what it has been doing. Remember we talked about people passing and them erasing themselves? Remember we talked about that? People erasing themselves? Well, that's the result of what warfare you're in with this. You've seen folks where they felt like they had no other choosing but to erase themselves and to take on a whole nother identity just to feel like that they're at sea level. So now I know that the race conversation and the experience that we have gathered in coming up in the neighborhood is gold. We know what it's worth. So why would you be able to come in and buy low? And for what purpose? You know, when you buy low on something, you know, you don't necessarily treat it with much value. You don't appreciate it as much. You know, you miss the struggle on it, and since you didn't go through the struggle with it, you don't appreciate it as much. Versus when you do go through the struggle, man, you want to stand guard at the door. Because what you do, I'll tell you something, man, what we don't want is folks to start taking the race conversation and using it as a mascot. America, mascotting folks around. That's part of Skin Deep too. You ever see on Skin Deep, you get to a news station and you have, it's like, you ever heard that word ventriloquist? You hear somebody talking? They're like a puppet. You don't see on them behind them. Somebody behind them. And they got their hand in their back. And they got them like. But they got a certain look, right? You know, their hue look real dark. Or hue look real light. But they got somebody's hand, somebody else's hand It's in them. Now, check this out. You might have thought you knew where I was going. I'm telling you that that hand that's in them pertaining to gentrification of the race conversation, number one, is inexperience. A lot of folks try to speak as if they're experienced in a thing because they know it's gold. See, when I was coming up, it wasn't thought as gold. Not in this land, no. It wasn't thought as gold, not at all. It wasn't thought as value. But now, oh, it's value. And everybody want a piece of it. No matter where you turn, it is a culture war to get a piece of what is up under my feet in the foundation of the culture that I came up in. And what's so wild about it, if many people, if they cannot buy low, then they'll just turn on it and then they'll drag you through the mud. Oh, they ain't let me buy. They ain't let me purchase. They ain't let me purchase. They ain't let me buy in. You see that all the time. Y'all don't see that? I was looking at this thing today. You know, they call it so-called Black History Month, right? And then I seen somebody on there like, oh yeah, it's Black History Month. It's Black History Month. Black History Month. Black folks is the 13% of the population, but 55% of the violent crimes, and 8% fatherless home. Let me tell you something about this fatherless home thing while we on that real quick, and I'll get back. Man, hey, pray for your boy, man, because sometimes I just go off on tangents, and hopefully I get back. But let me share something on this fatherless home thing, okay? Do y'all know how babies get here? That's what all y'all who always try to quote like you care what father is in the home. Like you quote that statistic as if you care, but you don't really care. You just want to use it as a jab. So, okay, so since you want to use it as a jab, let me ask you this question. Do you know how babies get here? You do? You know how they get here? Okay. Since you know how they get here, are you trying to insinuate that black folks is the only one that's having sex? Is that what you're insinuating? Because I know you ain't saying that. I know you ain't saying that. Oh man, they ain't married. They ain't having. Look. I done been a lot of places, and I know for a fact. I might be old now, but I know for a fact, even the old ones too. I know for a fact that the people be getting down, married or not. I ain't got word. Look, I had to have a conversation with my granddaughter. You know, she's right at middle school age. We had real conversations. There, they try to get down there. They're in high school. And let's not even talk about college. You trying to tell me on the college campus? All that partying, all that kicking that they be doing on the college campus, and you think the only people on that campus that's getting it in is black folk? So that's just foolish in how they use it. Not that I have a problem or to not fight against fatherless homes. Oh, absolutely. I stand for that. Yeah, I stand for that. Hey, you have a child, take care of your child. Absolutely. Absolutely. But you do know how children come into being, right? So, all right, they come into being. So now what you're saying? Well, next thing, black ladies are just, they're just way more fertile. Is that what you're arguing? Notice I ain't even getting to the fatherless part yet. We got to do steps in how to get there. So basically the argument, stop using it as a weapon. You really want to use it, if you really want to use it, I'll tell you how. If you really want to use it and you really want to speak it and you want to say it, you want to, look, if you want to chastise all day long, I'm all for it. If it's right, chastise all day long. But you better know what? After you're done chastising, I should be able to turn to you and you should be exemplifying what you're chastising about. See, this is how I know you're not exemplifying. Let me show you how I know you're not even exemplifying it. Because if you were going through the process or motion to exemplify it, you would have way greater and more understanding of that process. You would have way more grace about that process. You wouldn't be using it as a weapon. Oh, they fatherless, man. Oh, so you trying to tell me, man, you you wasn't driving down the street the other day and turned your whole gooseneck around 5 times? When you seen the lady in the Nike XOTLS TR5X zipper suit just jogging down the street and just bouncing? You didn't twist your neck and almost get your car insurance hiked up another $1,000 by causing a wreck. But you want to talk about who's fatherless. Get yourself together, America. All right, that was a tangent. Let me get on back to this gentrification stuff, all right? All right. So with the gentrification piece, again, those who are experienced have to stand at the gate and make it be known that it is known how valuable this conversation is. That's the land, this conversation. And to understand how valuable the conversation is, because this conversation is making people lose their soul, lose their lives, erase their identities, giving up hope, having disdain towards one another. Everything opposite of harmony and unity. This has built. So you have to have someone who knows how to study that venom to then create something that will be medicine or that will reverse its order or its effect. You cannot come in and buy low. How do you buy low? I'll tell you how you buy low. You try to dumb down the conversation. I'm all for it, you get in where you're at, because I believe that all of us have ownership in it. Absolutely. We all have ownership, but you're not the owner. So to my sad regret right now, how we have the conversation, we done took it, so-called liberals into took it as a calling card. No experience at all. And this is what happens. You want to buy in so bad, but somebody like me holds certain currency in the capitalistic society. We hold a certain currency in this conversation. So what do? We got to get them out of the way. We can't buy low if they're there. They're going to keep on reminding us of their life and all the nuanced things they have learned from their elders. Let me share something with y'all. My grandparents was born in 1912. This is who I've been learning from and getting stories told to me my whole life. One was born in 1912, the other one was born in 1918. What would make you think that we're going to sell anything low? And all that blood, sweat, and tears have been coming up through that whole, from generation to generation to generation, giving all the story. It's like all the stuff that the people say now and what they speak now. You know, my grandparents was telling me that's how they were speaking back then. They was telling them to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. Back in the 20s and the 30s, telling them they were being victims. That's what they were doing back then. Now, I would ask y'all now, you're like, oh, no. You know, hey, that's when racism really was. Just, what was back then. And, you know, it was really going on. And, you know, the black folks needed it. Well, they were saying it to them back then. So the conversation and the spirit of the conversation have not changed. All we have now is more people trying to buy low. Because even with that, with those who don't understand what is the effects or the nuance or lived experience to come up under it and all the different things that happen, the adjustments you do, the code switching, the passing, the rejecting of self, wanting to erase yourself, making life or death decisions just to want to fit in with the overall society. Folks don't be knowing nothing about that. You know, it's some folks who have this conversation every day where they have to apply it to something every day, not only for themselves, but to teach their offspring. Why would I allow someone to come in without a battle to keep the property value high, to come in and to buy low, just where we can put everybody asleep? Well, it didn't happen to you. It didn't happen. Did you hear what I just said? My grandparents, I remember everything that they told. They was born 1912 and 1918. All right, let's do the math. It's 2026. So what's that, 114? 114 or 108, whichever one you want to do. 114 years, 108 years. Do you know I have 108 years of combination of live lived experience from them, live lived experience from myself, and instruction from them, and the articulation of the instruction of myself in combination? 108 years sitting in here. Can't tell me it wasn't me. Yeah, it was me. I got that teachings in me. So now when we come together, it's doing you no favor to walk into this thing and buy low. But remember, you're buying just to sell. So what's the sell high? Well, after we bring down, you know, the minimum. Look at you trying to DEI the race conversation. You get what I'm saying? That's for you conservatives. You know how y'all talk about DEI? They're not qualified or nothing. Well, that's what you're doing with the race conversation. You're trying to minimize it. Like you're trying to bring in some quotas. Thought you wasn't for quotas. Thought you said you want a qualified pilot. A qualified doctor. All right, I'll tell you what. Let's get on the plane is going to be called the race conversation. That's the plane. And we're going to get up there about 100,000 feet in the air. And we want you to be the pilot and fly it. The only thing, you ain't never flew a plane before. But you're a DEI hire. We're going to live or die. Because I already told you, if we don't do this right, it has shown that people lose themselves and people have died over not flying this plane right. You want that responsibility on your shoulders? Thought you said you didn't like DEI, man. We got to pay attention. Hey, liberal and conservative, or Democrat and Republican. Both of you need to chill out. And let's be taught by those who have the experience. Like even my generation. Like we ain't even thought of no more. We the ones that about got the most information. This is not to be used as your mascot. We are not your mascot. The conversation is not your mascot. We are to take ownership, but even within myself, it does not make me the owner. So since I'm not the owner, I got to do right, and I can't make it self-serving for myself. I got to do right by the whole collective with this conversation. Not trying to make a buck off this conversation in that sense. We want to help the people, where we can see each other for who we truly are, and then have that compassion because we have knowledge of each other and who we truly are. And not mask it with, plastic wood panels and paint and flower pots put in the grounds. Taking 10,000 and making it 400,000, but all you did is went to the hardware store and got you $1,000 worth of materials. That's going to benefit nobody. If we're going to tear it down to the studs. Why it can be clearly seen for everybody to know where they fit within this. And the only way that we're going to be able to tear it down to the stud, you got to have somebody experienced that can speak beyond all generations. You're going to have somebody experienced. No more buy low. Challenge yourself. We're going to have a part 2 to this, because I'm going to give you some different examples of how it manifests, how it plays out, even within the so-called Black community. I'm going to give you some examples of how it play out. And I'm going to give you some examples across the board. All right, we're going to plot it right there, fam. Again, hopefully you enjoyed this episode. We want to encourage you to like, share, and subscribe. Put some comments on there, even if y'all feel like, man, look at this big old milk dud head. Yeah, put that on there too. Whatever you want. And we'll get back with you. And we'll say thank you. Yes, I'm a milk dud. I've been called that before. That's all right. Come on back next time. Turn on the notifications. Again, go to the listening podcast. All that stuff where you can just listen with the Apples and Spotifys and the yada yadas and all that stuff. All right, well, it's just a simple question. Can you read a book without ink and paper? Yeah, come on to the neighborhood and get some of this gold. That's right. You got to talk to the author. That's right. Hey! Peace be.